Hi, my name is Melissa Volhart, and for my final presentation, I decided to do mine on female pop stars. So, we know that sexism plays a huge part in the pop music industry, especially when it comes to female singers. And so, before um, getting into a lot of detail, there's a video on YouTube. It portrays sexism not necessarily just within the music industry, but just females in general. I did try to upload this so that I could actually show it during this presentation, but it's not really working. Um, but I do definitely recommend watching it. I do think it's important, and I think that it kind of shows a good message about just sexism, especially towards women, and that it's not important that we wear all this makeup in just a certain way just for society. It's more like what we want to do for ourselves. That's really important. So I looked up the 10 most beautiful female singers. I was just kind of interested to see how they were labeled and who would be 1 through 10. And I did some research on a few of them. And so I wasn't surprised to know that Taylor Swift was number one. Um, we hear about her a lot. She has a lot of fame, so I wasn't surprised that she made it on that list. So it just goes from Taylor Swift to Selena Gomez, Demi Lovato, Shakira, Katy Perry, Ariana Grande, Jackie Evancho, Jennifer Lopez, Beyonce to Carrie Underwood. So since Taylor Swift was number one, I decided to talk about her first. So I found this quote that she personally said, and it just states, "I've learned that society is constantly sending very loud messages to women that exhibiting the physical signs of aging is the worst thing that can happen to us. These messages tell women that we aren't allowed to age. It's an impossible standard to meet." So while I was doing some research on Taylor Swift, we always hear so much about her and people giving her crap that she's always writing songs about her love life and her breakups. And she's a female just like everyone else, and she goes through breakups. She has a love life. She's a normal person just like we are, and so she is allowed to make songs of what she wants them to be. And I read an interview about her, and someone asked her why, since she's going to be 30 in December, if she had considered having children ever, since she has a boyfriend that she's been with since 2017. And her response to that was that she did not want to answer because people would not ask a male if they were planning on having children because they were meeting an age limit. So why should she have to answer that because she's a female? And I agree with her on that. We would never ask a male like, "Hey, are you, considering having kids? You're like almost 30." We would never ask a male that. So what's the difference? Why should we be asking a female that? So I'm pretty proud of her for standing up for herself and answering the way she did. And also, just over the past couple years, Taylor Swift has become increasingly more vocal about the inequality she faces within her industry. And one of the more poignant times that she called out on a raging double standard was when she discussed how Ed Sheeran or Bruno Mars can write love and breakup songs but are never questioned about these, at least not in the same way that Taylor would be asked these type of questions. So when asked about her songs being so frequently about the men in her life, she responded perfectly by saying, "Frankly, I think that's a very sexist angle to take. No one says that about Ed Sheeran. No one says that about Bruno Mars. They're all writing songs about their exes, their current girlfriends, their love life, and no one raises a red flag there." And I think it's the same thing. If we're not asking males these questions, then why are we asking females these questions? And it's just the same thing. Like, it displays sexism towards women. So next was Demi Lovato. She was also one of the top 10 beautiful female artists on that list. And she I also read a interview on her about how the media talks about Taylor Swift and analyzing the songs to say who they're about, and Demi Lovato had brought to their attention to this inherent double standard. Our male artists asked why they include details about their exes in their songs. So she's basically just saying, like, don't ask me these questions, don't mess with me, because I'm a woman, when you're not even going to ask men the same thing. So I kind of like how Demi Lovato is kind of sticking up for herself and Taylor, and just, sexism is a huge thing, and it's always pointed directly towards women and never towards men. So another one that was not on the top 10, but I had read a um, interview about Alicia Keys, and I just thought that hers was pretty. I thought it was kind of a big deal. Like, you don't ever see Alicia Keys, going out there and looking sexist and kind of doing what the other females kind of do. She doesn't really follow that type of lead, so I thought maybe it would be important to add her into this PowerPoint. So Alicia Keys had first started in the music industry in the early 2000s, and when she had first arrived in the industry, she had felt a lot of pressure to market herself in a sexual type of nature. And for her, it was a huge battle. So when Alicia Keys first went into the music industry, she had a vision for herself, and she felt that she was not allowed to express it because people always tell you, do it like this or do it like that, or you should do this, you can't do that. So she felt like she had to control it and claim her space. And it was more about demanding respect and saying, here's what I want, and pushing people as opposed to being pushed around. And she found that if you act like you know what you're doing, then people will believe you and know that you know what you're doing. And so her professional success did come at a personal cost, and it took her years to recover from that. And she had felt a bit encaged, and she wasn't really happy, and she didn't really understand why, because you had this big dream and now you're living it, so what could possibly be wrong? And she kind of talks and discusses about the pressure that she was under to create and perform and promote, with the subtle bullying implications that if she didn't do certain things, she was putting her career at risk. And so everything for her was kind of based at fear. And so Keys had never allowed herself to be marketed with the sexual vulgarness that's still common to most young female artists in the music business. And for her, that was a huge battle. She says, as a young girl coming into this thing, I felt huge pressure. You don't know how to navigate it because everyone's going, oh, that's beautiful, that's nice. Why don't you unbutton the shirt a little lower, pull the skirt a little higher? It's really nice. And you're just trying to figure out how to not look like an idiot. I trusted people, and then I would see things back and feel embarrassed and uncomfortable. And that kind of set me on my path to be stronger, not letting people tell me anything, only trusting my own instincts, but that can be tricky too. So I think Alicia Keys can be a great role model for especially young girls, not allowing society to place these rules, like these gender rules that society has, and saying, oh, you have to dress this way, or you have to dress this way, or you have to look this way or look that way, and you have to fit in because no one's going to want to be your friend if you look a certain way. And that's not true. I think it's important that females do stand up for themselves and do what they believe in, because you're the one walking through life and you should feel comfortable doing it. So, sexism, it can be defined as stereotyping, being prejudiced, or the discrimination based on sex and/or gender. And sexism against women can occur in obvious ways, such as belittling women professionals or ignoring female members of a band. And your image is a huge part of sexism as well. So I was really interested on how celebrities choose their clothing for events and red carpet events and concerts and all that stuff. And so I did some research on it, and I found that they don't get their own choice of what they want to wear. it's usually their stylists are picking them out for them, and it's usually designers' clothes, and so they're wearing what their stylist picks out for them, and it's not necessarily, excuse me, sorry, what they want to wear, it's what their stylist picks out. And I think this is where a lot of sexism comes in, and a lot of issues can arise because their stylists are picking out something for them, and it's like, what is society going to think of them, not like how are we thinking of this person. So we're looking at celebrities as, maybe we're not really looking at them at who they necessarily are, but more at what they're like and what they're wearing, and we're not getting to actually know these people. We're just looking at them based on what they wear, and that's how a lot of sexism arises and happens, and I don't think it's necessarily right, and I think that we should take a lot of these gender rules off, and maybe sexism will slowly start to subside. So that's it. Here are my cited sources, and thank you for listening.